Oh my God, sorry. I have something from 1825 and he just knocked it over and broke part of it. I know. What a little shit.
Well,
Yeah, it's okay. It's an old painting and it's got all this old, like obviously because it's so old, all the paper on the back and he just knocked some of the paper off, but it's like
crap.
it's already kind of like flaking.
Yeah.
So he just kind of like took off the flakes, which is it's okay. But I was like, what the hell? And he went to stand on it. So I was like, ah.
Never
Oh,
mind that
shit.
200-year-old thing. Don't worry about that. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just 200 years old. It doesn't matter.
Probably should have been thrown out already anyway, right? It's 200.
Right? Exactly.
I am here today with Cervena Fox, who I
Hello,
used to call
everyone.
who I used to call Cervena Fox,
Yes.
and I got corrected
Because I corrected.
I think we all read it as Cervena Fox here in the,
Mm-hmm.
or at least in the States. I'm from the South. Maybe it's just my draw. I don't know. But I think that's a very common thing. And she speaks proper English.
Proper
So,
English. Yes.
proper English. So we have to listen when she tells us stuff because you can't correct somebody like that because they probably have a better grasp on it than you do. So for the people that don't know you out there, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Well, basically, I am a model. I've been modeling for about 10 years now. I started a tattoo apprenticeship when I was like 16 and did that for about 2 years and decided, you know what, I'm going to hold out on that and take that, redo that in a couple of years' time and see how it is then, because it wasn't as acceptable to be a woman back then, tattooing in the man world, as they called it back then. I started tattooing recently about 2.5 years ago. So I'm a model, I'm a tattoo artist. I also fire perform and I'm also an aerialist. So I do quite a lot of things. And actually, I don't know if to add this to the CV, but I've started doing more YouTube stuff recently, once a month right now, but I'm definitely getting more into it and trying to do it more than once a month.
What are you doing on YouTube?
Just everything and anything anyone wants me to do. There's a lot of people that want me to do like makeup tutorials, and some people ask about my hair, some people ask about my tattoos, so just really anything. And I just kind of ask people, mainly on Twitter, ask them, what would they like me to film, and I just basically do it.
Nice. Well, and where can people find your pages?
So on everything, it's pretty much just Cervena Fox. So youtube.com/Cervena Fox, facebook.com/Cervena Fox. Same with Instagram, same on Twitter. Everything is just Cervena Fox.
Nice. With the tattoo apprenticeship, absolutely. Like it's becoming more and more, female centric. You're getting a lot more talent from the female. I would still say it's a relatively male dominated industry just by numbers. And that's just because, that's what happens when X amount of decades go by when one gender is typically the one doing it. And shops were a lot harder at a certain point. Like when I was getting my first works, like the shop that I was in wasn't a place for the ladies. And the one lady who did work there was a hard ass biker. She was dope. It was Bad Dog Productions in Orlando. And she was like, there would be no fucking around with her. Like if it came down to, if there was a bar fight in the joint, she would be the first one to throw. So it was definitely not the same artistic sort of family professional environment that you tend to find today in a lot of shops. It was a place where it wasn't even about, a lot of these shops were not about art. People had this misgiving that like, oh, it was always about the art. No, it wasn't. It was about some rowdy ass shit in some of these shops. And, it wasn't even really a creative environment. They were just fun where you were getting some cool shit done. And, it wasn't about that. So very glad that the art industry has infiltrated that side of the industry so much, because you get a lot of interesting things out of it now.
That's why I went back into it, because honestly, like I was really mistreated when I was like 16 and doing my apprenticeship.
Where was that at?
This was back in Milton Keynes in England. And I don't even know if the store is there. Actually, let's have a look on the phone to see if they're even there. That would be quite interesting.
Oh, you amazing Googles.
Oh, I know. God, even if it's still called the same
You can't
thing.
hide from me.
Wow.
I have a cell phone.
Me with my ginormous phone.
Yeah. It's very K-pop.
Well, shit, it's still there.
It's still there. Nice. Well, you just got a free shout out, shop. So we won't try and like slander you too much, but let's just say the apprenticeship was more challenging. And that, you know, that comes from a time when there was and it still holds a little bit true, that people believe, oh, for it to work, you have to be like super aggressive and abusive and clean the shop with a toothbrush and blah, blah,
Oh
blah,
God.
blah. And
No, they were mean like that. Like,
yeah,
honestly, like to the point where I even like got hurt in the studio because they would like pick on me and do stuff like grab onto they'll tell me to bend over and get something, and then they'll like bang my head on stuff, you know, and they would like throw stuff on the floor and go pick that up. And they were like really mean. But I was like 16. I had
right.
like my natural blonde hair. I was like, you know, so young. I had like one tattoo, I think it was. And I was like, I want to be a tattoo artist. And they took me as a joke.
Yeah.
So, and I was so in love with, you know, wanting to be a tattoo artist. I was so in love with art that they knew that. And they basically used that against me, took lots of money, were just, you know, assholes half the time. And yeah,
Yeah.
it was just, whew, yeah.
What are the main differences from not just from the time of then till now, but which we won't ask you to say how long that was, but from the environment, right? From that city and that environment, what was tattooing like there, the environment of it compared to here? Like in its atmosphere, in its shop setting, in its the culture where you come from.
I mean, do you mean like now? Because the thing is, when I did my
No, then
apprenticeship,
to
that
now.
was a long time ago.
Right. That's what I kind of meant. Like what you experienced it as then, you know, like when I was getting into it, I was going to biker shops. It was very much like
Oh,
still
okay.
kind of an outlaw kind of expression, et cetera, et cetera. Where now it's very much more, you know, it's art centric.
Yeah. Well, there it was like, it was just very kind of like basic, really, with like the whole tattoo world. Like they were obviously trying to expand their business and get other shops in the town, but they were very much like shop wars, like, you know, going against anyone that had a studio in the town.
Right.
Whereas in nowadays, there is like, you know, there's a shop, you know, on every single street. Like
Everywhere.
there's so many more shops.
Right.
I mean, obviously shop wars still go on, but it's not as bad as what I experienced when I was back in Milton Keynes. But yeah, no, it looked completely different as well. Like interior wise, like they had it very kind of like, you know, all the flash on the walls, but it was like the old school style shop. It was very kind of like traditional and that, but it was still kind of like not like a nice traditional shop where you go in and you're just like, oh my God, so much to see. This one
Right.
was like the flash was there, you walked in and you had to point something from the wall and say, I want that.
In
That's
and
basically
out. Street
all it was.
shop.
Yeah, it was major,
True
but
and
not even a nice street shop. Like, is
no.
it really bad street shop? So that definitely was that. But
But
yeah, and
now
then
I'm sure it's much better.
it's way better. And
Good.
honestly, like there's some shops that I go in here in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm just like, whoa, like, and they're street shops, but they're so insane. There's so many awesome things to look at. There is so
Mm-hmm.
much artwork. Obviously, they do have stuff available from Flash artists, or
Mm-hmm.
they are, you know, they have their work as well there, which
Yeah.
is really nice to look at. And yeah, and then you go to the private studios here, and the private studios are just as beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
but some of them are more gallery based. So they do the
Yeah.
parties, they have the galleries instead of it just being like flash work, you know.
Sure.
And I love both. I love both. And I definitely feel like the way that the tattoo industry has gone now, I definitely am more in love with the industry, how it is now, than it
Sure.
was back then, because it was pretty grimy
Sure.
where I was, and you know, just the style and everything.
What
So
brings you from England to Columbus?
oh, a man called Deb Morrison, unfortunately. Oh, he ruined my life. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we met actually in Ireland at the Titanic replica tattoo convention. I'm trying to think. I think that's what it's called, the Titanic Tattoo Convention. But basically, it was like the replica of the Titanic in this room, like the ballroom. And I was there doing a signing and performing, and he was there. I think he was doing seminars down in Dublin, and I was in Belfast doing the show. And yeah, and he just came up and started talking to me, and I was like, that's pretty nice. I want to get to know him more. And then
I
two
want to
years
move
later,
to
boom,
Ohio.
married.
I can't
I
make
say
fun of.
boom, but I don't have the ring on right now. I just came out the shower, so.
No, I can't. I can't. Oh, she left it in the shower. Damn.
Yeah, I don't want
Uh,
to ruin the diamonds on that thing.
yeah, right. I
No.
don't think you can ruin the diamonds. I think they're pretty hardy.
I've actually heard that soaps are bad and it can actually make it so they go really foggy, and then you have to take them to go get cleaned.
True.
So whenever I go in the
True.
shower, I don't sleep with it on. I'm very particular. So I'm just like, I don't want to ruin it. I feel so bad if I've had about 2-3 dreams
Yeah.
where I've actually had the ring break And it's definitely a fear of mine. So it's always something that always plays in my mind. So I'm very careful. If I go to the gym, I don't wear it. If I go anywhere like that,
Yeah,
hiking,
that
don't
makes
wear
sense.
it. It's
I
all
would make
about
fun of
here.
you. I would make fun of you for being with somebody from Ohio, but my girlfriend's from Columbus, so I can't really say a whole lot.
Yeah, you can't. No,
No.
the best are here.
Best we got to offer. So with the modeling, we talked about that. You said you were performing. You do the circuit. I've known you from like Steadfast days, just through social networking. I always found you to be very persistent in your goals, and you knew what you wanted. You knew how you wanted to get there. You networked correctly. You didn't get caught up too much in the BS. We all get caught up. Let's not any of us try and pretend that we haven't slipped. A lot of times those slips is how we gauge how we want to grow and how we want to progress, right? But because we can all get mad, we can all, we can all like react. But you always
still
came
got to stand your ground though as well.
right.
That's when
Absolutely.
people will get that wrong, go, oh, you're being big-headed. And you're like, no, I want to brand myself the right way.
Right.
And I want to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So, you always have to be careful. And that's always one thing that I've done. And I hope I influence girls and guys out there to be the same as well.
Absolutely. I think you influence a lot of guys to model, but, but no, just the way you carried yourself. I was meaning more like getting caught up, like, Derb and I were talking about on our podcast, where sometimes like, you really try hard to live above any of the drama going on around or in the industry or in the environment. And like, sometimes we will all find ourselves sort of engaged in it, but that's a good place for us to then step back and be like, no, that's not what I want to participate. It's not how I want to carry myself, etc. And that's what I meant. Like, no matter what went down and what was going on around, you always carried yourself in a way that was like, yeah, I would want that person to represent what we're about, and we worked with you at that level. You worked with us at Inked, you were on the cover, et cetera, et cetera. And, that was good. So you wanted to talk in a little bit about, everybody's going to ask what got you into modeling, but a little bit more about where you are now in your career with it, now that you're looking at, performance and now as tattooing, et cetera. So I'd like to go into that with you a little bit because, I work with a lot of models in several different arenas, everything from fashion to adult. Everybody's got their limits, everybody's got their thing. So a lot of models and a lot more male models these days have these questions and say, hey, how did you find yourself in this position or that position? And a lot of models get discouraged super quick. One of the biggest things that I see, and I'd like to get your feedback on all of this, of course, is that they want to get into it, but just like anybody getting into any field, whether it was like, for my own example, doing the shop or doing Steadfast or doing the trade shows or doing, into whatever I did, was it's really easy to say, hey, I want to get into that, and then not take any of the steps to do it or not have any of the follow through to get anywhere. You get discouraged, they trip up, they get involved in the drama too quickly and too immersed in it. And then it just consumes them and they never really stay focused on their goals. So as somebody who's accomplished a lot and is still seeking out and accomplishing new goals, what kind of got you into it? What are some of the pitfalls and lessons that you've learned in modeling that you would want to pass on?
Well, with modeling, the only reason why I did it was I only wanted to get a few nice photos to post on social media to basically show the girls that used to bully me at school that I could be beautiful. I was very, very, very much the weirdo goth kid. Like, people just didn't understand me. And I'm still to this day misunderstood like a mofo. Like, I swear to God, I am so misunderstood. Obviously, I'm getting better as I get older. I'm English, so sometimes I say things that is taken differently as well in different countries. And it's one thing I am learning that, sometimes you have to be really careful what you say. And also people also have to understand that certain things you say might be completely different from what you would think. So it's all about forgiveness there as well and learning about the different dialects as well. It just in the world in general. But with my modeling, I was just bullied. It was bad. And when I left school at 16, I used to put my tail between my legs and go, like, fuck this, whatever, I am who I am. But I definitely still would look at myself and go, God, they are right. I am ugly, and I would think like that. So I did a photo shoot. I paid her like $100 and got 5 photos. And it was just before I was going on holiday. So I was like, fuck it, I'll get these photos when I get back from holiday and I'll post online and they can see that I can be beautiful. So obviously did my hair, did my makeup, did the photo shoot, things went well. And when I posted up the photos, it actually was pretty awesome because a lot of people, you know, those girls, I don't think they saw them, the girls that would bully me, but I got a lot of good feedback. And the photographer was like, I loved shooting you. She was like, if you have someone that you can refer to me to, you know, do a shoot, I would love to shoot you again, and I'll do that for free because you referred someone to me. So I knew a lot of girls that were asking about the photos that was taken of me. So I referred her to someone, and then she did a free photo shoot. And it just kind of went on there. And it just went from photo shoot after photo shoot after photo shoot. And then next thing I know, I've got a full portfolio. And then I met somebody during one of the shoots who was also a model. And she was just like, have you heard of something called Model Mayhem? And back then that was huge. Yeah. And that was a big thing that was super serious. You could get a lot of jobs from it now, sure. But models stay away from that now. Like, it is not a good thing. I probably heard about it maybe a year ago. Like, somebody mentioned it and I was like, it's still going on. I thought that thing got shut down. But like now, definitely wouldn't recommend going on there looking for jobs. It's just not, it's not good. There's lots of people who have their phones and just go, oh, I'm a photographer. And then they'll just have their phone, and it's just like not good. I've had one really bad experience from a photographer on that site as well. So you always have to be careful, because that's the other thing. You don't know who these people are. You're contacting them and they're contacting you through the internet. So that's another thing. You have to be really careful there.
Oh, absolutely. You have to do research. Yourself. You need references. You need referrals. I'm a huge believer, and we've always been a huge believer on getting background on the photographers that are going to be working with models, especially with female models, like male to female.
You'll be surprised as well. You've got to look at how old the photos are, because there are some people who I've even worked with and not had a good experience. And I've not posted up the photos they took of me, because I was like, no, that was not a good experience. And I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone else.
Sure.
And then the photographer carries on and posts out the images of me. And then girls then go, oh, well, if Cervena shot with them, they must be good. But it's not always the case. But I'm not going to sit there and slander someone online, because I don't want someone to slander me like that. Sure. So I've always said to, people, I'm like, if you ever want a recommendation, give me a message, DM me. I may have a lot of followers in that, but I'm still going to look at my DMs. I'm still going to be out there, looking after my girls and, looking after just everyone in the industry. So if you ever have any questions, I'm always like, yeah, message me and I can help. But as well, there are some photographers that I've seen where the photos of the model is like 5 years old, and I'll message the model going, hey, so I see you work with this person, are they good? And there is probably about 70% of the time I get a message and they're just like, yo, they're like, that was not a good experience for me, actually, this shit happened. But obviously it's the same thing, the photographer's still using the images, and that being paid shoot or free shoot, there's nothing really you can do. Once someone's got photos of you, they can do really what they want. So it's definitely something you have to be really, really careful there. And especially like some photographers don't like it when you take your boyfriend or your girlfriend. So it's, you have to be careful there. If you're going on your own, that's a really, really, scary thing. And you just got to look out for yourself. Make sure that you go in there and completely sure about the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, that's reference. I mean, a lot of shoots are private, like a lot of shoots are private studio. And I've been on enough to counter just something on that. I've been in enough environments where people are shot where, and I've had photographers cancel shoots before because a boyfriend did come. And a lot of boyfriends aren't cool, supportive people. They're jealous dicks. And they're sitting there trying to be in it and be like all over it and yada, yada, yada. If you're a professional and you're working with a professional, should be fine. Yeah. Assistant, if you need a makeup artist or whatever. I even recommend take a guy friend that's not, if you're worried about having a, guy situation, take a trusted guy friend with you. Definitely. Maybe not the boyfriend, because let's be real about it. That's, especially once you're at like only the boyfriend level, a lot of times that can be just a huge distraction for everybody involved.
It is. It definitely is.
And a lot of boyfriends, here's the flip side of that even further, is a lot of times that boyfriend wanting to come, it wasn't the model's choice. He told her he was coming because he was a jealous prick and he's in there doing that. So if you got a solid dude, absolutely. But even more than that, like depending on the nature of the shoot, a guy family member or just a trusted guy friend, if you're wanting that kind of stability, or girlfriend that you have that with.
I mean, I still do that nowadays, and I've been doing this for 10 years. I still do it. you've just got to look after yourself. And there are some
Absolutely.
scenarios that like I will tell you as well, I have had some sticky situations, like
Yeah.
really sticky situations.
No
And
doubt.
I've sat there and in my guts, I'm like, don't get in that car. Don't go into that house.
Yeah.
And
You
I've
got to
told
trust that.
myself and I
Trust
didn't.
that.
So I've had two really bad sticky situations, managed to get out of that completely fine. But obviously deep down inside, I needed a day to sit there and be like, whoa, like
Right.
I I could have had the worst happen just then. And lucky
Yeah.
enough, I talked myself out of it and managed to escape the building, escape the car, escape the situation. So
Right.
it didn't turn into something, but it's just like, it does happen. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's only ever happened twice for me in the last 10 years, but I have heard for other girls, this shit has happened as well. So you have to be careful there.
Absolutely. And that's for anything. That could be on a date. That could be on like,
Oh,
out at a restaurant. That could be anywhere. And you
everything.
got to
Yeah, you
trust your
don't
gut.
know.
You
Mhm.
always got to trust your gut.
Always
There's
trust your
nothing,
gut.
absolutely nothing that
Yeah.
one day is worth any of that. You know what I
No,
mean? And
exactly.
any professional photographer, just like anybody else you're working with, if they're not able to put you into that comfortable space and have that bedside manner and appreciate the magnitude and vulnerability of the situation they're in, then you just shouldn't work with them and they shouldn't be in that profession. And a lot of those, the good thing about the internet is a lot of those type of people do get called out if you just do your research and just connect with other models. So if you're going to go into modeling, I tell everybody I know that's looking to do that, network with other models. Because just like with artists, like models get models jobs. It's
Yeah.
not really them on their own. It's the
No,
network.
yeah. I
Because
refer my girls, like people
yeah,
who I trust as well. I'd be like, these are the solid people. Even conventions. When I do
exactly.
conventions and they're like, hey, do you know any other performers? Do you know any person that can MC? And I have my set girls and
Yep.
my set guys where I'm just like, these are solid people. And I know that I
Yep.
could trust them, so you could trust them. So you
Absolutely.
always like, you can get it through that. But at the same time, you have to be careful for me, for instance, I've had this happen before where I've had a girl try to pretend to be my friend and pretty much stab me in the back. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
because she wanted to leech onto me. And that's one of my favorite things to say is leeching. There's a lot of leeches in this
Yeah.
industry. So she leeched on and tried to get as many jobs as she could off me. And I was very blind at the start and I totally realized it later on, but the damage was already done. But it's definitely one of the things. Sorry, this thing keeps falling out. Um, but yeah, it's definitely one thing that you just have to be careful. You really do, just with that as well. Like help those out that needs help, but at the same time, look after yourself and don't refer someone who actually you don't trust completely. Because at the end of the day, if they tarnish themselves from a job that you referred them to, it could tarnish you as well for even recommending them in the
Absolutely.
first place.
And I will say another thing in the case of bad reference, because you mentioned like the leeching and stuff. I'm not a big
It's
believer
okay.
in.
I'm gonna hashtag leech.
I'm not. I'm not a big fan either, unless there's like absolute documented proof, like video proof, stuff like that, in buying one negative review. Because just like on Yelp, like some models are crazy,
Yeah,
male and female, and a lot of times, and just like clients can be crazy, and just like somebody
everyone
at
can
the
be
DMV can be
human.
crazy. And I've watched models and clients in all fields have what they perceive to be a bad experience. And I don't mean something completely obviously done. I mean, if it was an
Right,
assault or anything like that, there's no question it's out, blah, blah, blah.
right,
But I
right.
have watched and been witness to somebody not getting what they wanted out of it, or they were being scandalous and thought if they were like
Oh, the
slutty
ego
about it,
gets
they
the
could
best
get
of
what
them.
they wanted out of it, or it was going to land them something. And when that didn't pan out and the photographer was like, yo, I'm not like that, they flipped it on them and tried to tarnish their name in
It's
retaliation.
both ways.
And that shit happens.
It
So
does. It does.
track records are important. Reviews, like peer reviews on things, are super important.
Yeah.
And just like with the news, like all this crazy shit that gets bombarded onto us every day, find 3 unrelated sources, check 3 unrelated sources on a topic or a person. You got 3 people saying somebody's shady in a particular exact way, probably the truth. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But if
No,
you
I
find this like
100% agree with
one
that.
rogue statement, the restaurant that has 100 good reviews and this one person goes up there and says everything was shit, you know what I mean? You got to be careful. And that's I've watched models get slandered that way, photographers, artists, shops, all kinds of stuff, man. Magazines, whatever. Like somebody's always going to be out for you, and the power of misinformation is horrific. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen that. False accusations are a mother, you know what I mean? So that's part of that whole, like you talked about wanting to be like mutually supportive for the girls. That's like paramount, man.
Mm.
Because you know that, like I know you've come across a couple of them. We've talked about them where it's like that particular person is always a victim or
Yeah.
always dramatic or
Oh
always
yeah.
slanderous, you know, and you got to watch for that too. And it's just as important to protect, say, a photographer from that type of customer. You know, if it's somebody that you trust and that you know is a good photographer and that you're allied with, you should be able to be there in this system that you're organizing with these models to also protect that photographer and be like, look, man, this has happened with this particular model and like 5 photographers in a row. So you
Right.
might want to be cautious going around that. You know what I mean?
And that can be taken, and that's the really funny thing is because sometimes you can warn people about somebody and be like, hey, you know, be careful of this person. And it's funny because in the industry, some girls will then call that as you're being two-faced and bitchy. But then you sit there and you're like, well, no, if it's, I'm being professional about it. It's not like you're sitting there online going, this girl did this, this girl did that, and just such a dick. You know, it's like, you're not keyboard wars, you know, it's not like that.
Absolutely.
And that's why also another thing, you stand up for the girls out there as well. But at the same time, you don't join in into that drama. That's the thing. You don't. If you see a model, you see a photographer or somebody. Sorry, my dog is literally making the most craziest noises. Hold on one second. I'm going to take my laptop with me so I can still be here. Hold on.
We're going on an adventure.
Yeah, stop crying. He's like, I put him in his cage so he wouldn't knock things over again. And he's just crying his eyes out.
It's like, I want to go break antiquities.
Yeah, you stop it. That's 200 years old. He's going back to it as well. Excuse me.
He's like, I'm going to eat this. It's a 200-year-old
You
raw.
don't have to do that. Sorry to interrupt then. Oh, what a crazy dog. Okay, so. Oh, Hannah.
That's good, man. That's some good highlights. Anybody out there, and like she's saying, she's available.
She's going to join us in the interview now.
Dogs. My dog's stomping around too.
But yeah, so I definitely feel like, you know, you have to be careful out there as well with girls and guys. Like definitely, they're, you know, I'm just trying to remember what I was saying about the internet and stuff. Because people will continue to keep saying stuff online. And I mean, generally the way I see it is that if you see a girl who constantly puts out negativity about photographers, about models in the industry, about just the industry itself, that shows that there's something wrong with that person and that they need to stop doing that, because that's not being professional at all. And there is so many times where I've even heard from photographers that they've gone, oh, this girl said this about you and this girl said that. I don't even let it get me. Like, honestly, like, and that's one thing I had to learn at the start of me being a model. It used to always upset me. I used to be like, oh man, this person wrote this about me. Now it doesn't bother me. Like, and it literally took a long time to grow that backbone, but it's just, you know, it's the world. You'll have a handful of people that say great things about you. You'll have a handful of people that say bad things about you.
Absolutely.
And you just got to get on with it, because at the end of the day, you know, if it's bullshit, then it is bullshit, and you shouldn't let bullshit worry you.
Right.
You know, so it's a hard industry though, let me tell you. And especially the fact that, no, I'm not only just a model, I'm also a performer. I'm also learning to be a tattoo artist. Like, I am doing
triple threat
things. Yeah, that I sometimes get shit from all 3 things in one go, and my brain feels like it's going to explode. But you just got to sit there at the end of the day and, you know, sit there going, okay, well, this person said this person said this. Like, does it really affect me? And 99% of the time, it doesn't affect me. You know, and at the end of the day as well, it's also sometimes shows people what that person's true colors is, the person writing that stuff about me.
Sure.
You know, and both.
Hey man, as long as they're writing about you, right?
Right, exactly. They'll talk and you're just like, well, you're just getting my name more out there by talking like
just getting it out.
But I do really agree with not writing, not doing keyboard wars, and not then lowering yourself to, you know, them and basically writing stuff out again.
Yeah, don't roll around in the mud.
I've seen girls do that, and I've seen guys do that too, and you just sit there and you're just like, oh, what's
that takes up so much of your energy. It just consumes it consumes your light, you know?
It does, and you just it's just not good, and it doesn't make you look as good. It just makes you both look pathetic, basically.
It does. Everybody involved. Yeah. I know that in times when I've gotten like into my own shit, I'm like, what am I doing? This is what I talk about.
It's like, why did I write that out? You know,
And then it just feeds it and it fuels it, and now that you've given them validation, etc. Like,
it's like, just leave that. Yeah, and it will happen. It happens in daily lifestyles as well. Like, people who aren't in the, like, you know, the artistic, creative world of modeling, tattooing, and performing, you're gonna get it anyway. You'll get it at work. You'll get it in friendship zones. Yeah. It's going to happen, but it's hard, and you've just got to go like this. It's hard, but you can do it.
So that's it. Models, perspective, don't Don't get caught up in the BS, and there's a
Don't
lot of
get
it.
caught up in the BS.
It's a very
Worth it.
involved,
Oh yeah.
emotional, vulnerable,
It's not
egotistical
worth the tears.
environment, right? As far as performing, what kind of performing do you do?
I do a lot of performing. I'm a fire performer and an aerialist and a burlesque performer. But burlesque is very new to me. I'm
Oh,
still
really?
figuring it out. Yeah. Which one came first? Oh, fire came first. I've been performing fire for about 5 years nearly now, actually thinking about it. It's quite a long time. I didn't have a talent. I used to do pinup pageants, and I loved it so much. But I did this pinup pageant once, and they went, "Oh, what's your talent?" And I sat there and was like, "I have no talent. Like, what the fuck do I do?"
What am I gonna do?
I was like, "I can dance," and they're like, "Well, can you sing?" And I'm like, "Oh hell no! Like, I can sing in the shower. I sound like Celine Dion, but out in the public, no, I can't do that shit." So I definitely started picking up hula hooping because I thought hula hooping's cute, and I saw girls do it online with fire, and I was like, that could be quite fun to learn how to eventually do it on fire. So when I started doing hula hoop classes, I actually met someone who was teaching there who did fire, and I was like, hey, would you mind teaching me the fire part of it? So she taught me a few bits. Then I met more people in the community who did fire performing from doing that little bit of fire then, and it just kind of like got bigger and bigger with the fire. And then with the fire, that was really fun to do. I did a few shows, had loads of fun, did it with my friends too. Then we then realized that actually it would be great to incorporate other things in. And one of the girls that were there did aerial. And I really loved aerial. And I'd seen people do this in, Cirque du Soleil and like all this. And I was like, damn, I wish I could do that. And I sat there going, wait, why wish when I can just do it? Why not just do it? So I looked at classes and I actually found some classes like about an hour away in London from, where I live that did it. So I started going there, learning from them, and yeah, did the aerial. Now I've been doing aerial, I want to say for about 4 years now.
Nice.
So yeah, fire about 5, aerial about 4, but I've had a lot of breaks in the aerial. Like if I was doing it every day, I'd be in such a high level. I think I'm like here right now because I wasn't consistent with it, because when I go away and model for a month, if I don't get on that hoop within 2 to 3 days, your muscles and everything starts like, going back to normal, and you need to keep on going. That's the only thing with aerial. Keep it going. It's like going to the gym. Keep doing it.
Right.
Then
yeah, and it's not something you exactly want to get rusty at and then go back up. You know what I mean?
It's so hard. And you've got to be so careful with your body. It's so taunting on the body. Sometimes I'm like, I have bruises.
Well, we watched you at Hill City, the Columbus one, and we saw like, I mean, you were doing this on chains.
Yeah, like, actually, that's a new one. I learned that the last year. Yeah, there was a girl called Katrina that did that at the London Tattoo Show like 3 years ago. And when I saw her do that, I was like, oh my God, I would love to do that. That's crazy. So amazing.
It's intense. It looks so industrial and like
hurts.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah, even just like just leaning on it, it hurts. Yeah. And I started talking to girls in the community that did aerial chains, and there was one girl from Russia actually, because I found her on the hashtags on Instagram.
Seems like a very Russian thing, like the
hardness
and the
it's badass. The shit that she does. Like, how do you do that drop without hurting? And she goes, it hurts. And I'm like,
it always hurts.
Okay, well, you're from Russia, so you can deal with that shit.
Exactly. Life hurts. Everything hurts.
For real, everything hurts. So I started speaking
that was more
to people
German
in the community who did aerial chains, and I was like, well, how do I go about it? And they were just like, oh, I went to Home Depot and I just fucking bought some chains, put it up, and went for it. And obviously I don't recommend someone doing that if you don't have an aerial background already. So when I got them, obviously had a professional rigger come in, tested them, put it up for me, taught me a little bit about how to rig aerial chains, because it's so different because the weight of the chain is so heavy. I have to have my husband to help put them up. So I had that little lesson with that. And then I started learning it for about a year before I even started performing. And it was actually in March this year that I started actually doing it for a show, which was awesome. Really fun.
It was crazy looking. Like I said, like the motions are amazing, but like, the chain part makes it so intimidating to see. You know what I mean? It's like, what is she going to do next? Like razor wire? Like what's the next limit? What's the next limit?
I'm an old lady. Like I can't do anything else. Like chains is where it stops at. Like even now, I'm
probably didn't think you were going to do chains either. You started out with hula hoops. Now you're like swinging on chains and shit.
Right. Well, no, now I do the hoop in the air as well. I do the
Yeah.
air. People call it lyra here, but it's also just aerial hoop. It's just a hoop in the air. So I do that as well. And that's super fun. And I really enjoyed that. That was definitely the first thing I picked up. And I am doing a new cowgirl burlesque aerial show. So I'm twisting burlesque with aerial hooping. So I was meant to bring that out in April at the Hell City show. But I actually decided that I would hold out, do the vampire show for the 2 days at Hell City, and instead save the cowgirl one until August. So the cowgirl one comes out in August.
Well, if you want to see her, you got to come out to the Phoenix Hell City
Tattoo Expo.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about your travels and how this is taking you around the world. Like, where has the modeling and the performing taken you so far? Where have you been?
Everywhere. Like Australia, New Zealand, all around Europe, all around America, even South America, everywhere. Like,
where'd you go to in South America? I know you were heading to Costa Rica right before we were, and then it got canceled.
Guatemala, is that South America?
Yep.
Yes, it is. Okay,
Central.
Still trying to get it all. Oh, Central America.
Yeah,
okay, so Central America, not so much South then. Yeah, Central America I've been. South I would love to go to. I've had like magazine covers in Argentina and all that, but unfortunately can't go over there right now for shows because of all the shit going on with my residency and everything going on. I've got to be careful where I go, and getting out of the country with a little green card, it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. I thought the marriage like solidified that. It's a little more complicated than that.
It's complicated. It was a very long process. They wouldn't even, it was funny because they wouldn't let me in the country. They tried to stop me from going in the country. When I got into the country, then they were like, oh, you can't leave now for 6 months. And I was like, do you want me in or do you want me out? Make your mind out.
The whole thing is stupid. Like,
it's so crazy. And if I lose, it's the tiny little green card. If I lose it, I can't come back into the country until they mail it back to that country that I'm stuck in. And then I would be able to come back in.
The whole we won't get into like borders and nationalism and shit like that. But the whole idea that like, my whole thing with it is like, in a quick summary, this idea that all of these biological coincidences and accumulation of atoms have all these strange parameters and acceptable locations that they can exist. What you're messing with right there is clicking really loud.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the mic.
Yeah,
every time you do that, it's going.
I'm sorry, my bad.
That's okay. But yeah, like this idea that we can't just like move around and experience the planet, that was no specific reason that we were born here and not in anywhere else, is just maddening. It's like, I get this whole idea of like, some border perimeters and like certain needs for it, but as just a creature on the planet, it's fucking ridiculous. Like,
it really is.
It's really ridiculous. Like, I meet so many people in South America, especially, that are just these unbelievably nice and creative and talented and awesome people that I love a lot more than some of the people around me sometimes. And I'm like, oh man, I'd love for you to come here. And they're like, yeah, that's something I'll never be able to do in my life. I'm like, that sucks. It's really it's really unfortunate that you can't just go see places and enjoy the planet.
Right, and it's like there's one, actually two girls in Costa Rica that I met when I went there not too long ago, and they were telling me that they had to pay to even get into America.
Yeah. Like, you have to buy a visa, you have to travel visas and stuff, and like a lot of those countries.
Not like when I went to Canada from here, it was like $9. It was like whatever. Yeah. They have to pay $300 fucking just to go.
Well, you have to apply. You have to be accepted. A lot of countries down there, you have to prove how much money you have in the bank, and it has to be a lot. You have to prove you have a house, properties, businesses. You have to have enough collateral that they believe you will come back.
Right. Like, it's crazy.
And I get that.
I get it, but it's crazy at the same time.
It is crazy. It is crazy that the collective global experience isn't progressing in a way that any one place, with exceptions, you're always going to have some hot spots in the world, but at large, civilized nations aren't able to just experience each other to the point where it wouldn't be a draw to like flee from one to the next. You know what I mean? Right. And that's a very interesting thing. So on that topic, with so much travel, a lot of the listeners are U.S. based and all that. What is the and only have like an internal perception, right? The thing that I've found in my travels, fortunately, my great aunt that raised me was a world traveler, extremely successful woman, 7 kids, circled the planet twice as a mother of 7, and went to 51 countries and brought back like artifacts from all over the world. So like I had that like world wanderlust in me like really young, right? I was like, I've got to go see everything. And I knew that like by being in other parts of the she did. And she just lived by experience, not like she would never come back and like profess like you need to see these things. She would show us things from there and knew that was planting that seed, right?
Yeah.
And like her life and her experience and her compassion was enriched by her seeing all of these things. And a lot of times what I find in the States is a lot of the personality types and points of view that aren't necessarily in line with my own tend to be from people who don't have as many stamps in the passport. Now, I'm not saying that just traveling gives you this particular mindset, but more often than not, it's people that have not gotten a chance to experience what these other places are really like, right?
Yeah, I agree with you, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think that breaks open everything. I mean, experience and knowledge. I mean, that whole knowledge is power. I mean, that's real, and it's not just like what your degree is. It's your empathy and your experience, and like when you're actually involved in people like that. And I don't mean like going to Jamaica and staying in a resort that's got high walls and guards, and then you never actually see what the country is. I mean, like actually traveling through places, and especially
you have to also be careful because there are those places like in Costa Rica. We were going down the beach. And we had to sign a piece of paper to say that we had left the resort, and they were just like, "Unfortunately, we can't, look after you if you go."
Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica, they were like,
"I've been all over Costa Rica. Where was this? You must have been by the border. Were you on the Caribbean side?
The other side.
Pacific.
Yeah. And we had to sign to leave. And,
where were you?
It was the Hilton, DoubleTree.
Do you remember what city?
I can't remember.
That's so
weird. I kept getting it wrong. But
it had to be by a border. That's wild.
Yeah, no,
I've never experienced that.
No, it was in the middle of Costa Rica. It was like an hour out from San Jose on the left-hand side. So yeah, the Pacific. But can't say the word. But yeah, so that was
strange. Yeah, we were just down there in Manuel Antonio and like.
Yeah, we even had somebody walk up to us and was like, "Yo, do not go down there." We were like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's so dangerous down there." He was like, "Even though you're going to be like you signing out," we were just trying to walk along the beach.
Sign out?
Have a nice time. And the guy was like, "Let me tell you, just don't." So
were you in Jaco?
Security guard was like, yeah, it was a security guard and then a guy that does the tours all there. And the tour guide was just like, "Don't." Here goes, it gets.
That's so crazy. Every time I've been to Costa Rica dozens of times, and I just go down there and rent a car, and I just go explore the whole country. Like me and my girl,
which we were going to do one of the days. And when we got told about that, it actually made us a little nervous. So we ended up just staying at the hotel for the last day and just kind of like chilled at the pool because we were like, okay.
Something about that is really strange. I'd like when we get off, if you could send me the city you were in.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anybody listening to know this. Like I've like. Coast to coast in Costa Rica. Some of my best friends live in Costa Rica, and it is like the most travel-friendly, American-friendly place in the world. Like, there's no military. Like, crime is super, super low.
Right.
Friends of mine go there just to get their dental done. Like, they go to Costa Rica because it's so cheap and so good. You go down there, you get cavities filled for like $20. Root canals are like $40. Whole braces are $400 for the whole setup.
Right. Like, it's so cheap. This is actually, I found it. It's Puntarenas.
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 Send that over to me. All right. So yeah. So aside from that one place she went to, everywhere else, super fucking safe. Run around there all the time, like a crazy person with my tiny little girlfriend, and we always have an absolute blast. It's a beautiful place.
Yes, beautiful.
Beautiful place. And I recommend going back. It's awesome.
I love Costa Rica. We had such an amazing, beautiful time there. It was insane. Like, I'm so excited about doing more Central America shows.
Yeah, they're amazing. Panama is too, super cool. And like, one of the things that like, talking about that perspective was that when you go to those places, like that whole thing in Costa Rica, that whole Pura Vida lifestyle, is that no matter what socioeconomic bracket you're in, you're taught to be happy and excited about living, about being a creature on the planet. right? And so like even like the most down and out, what we would consider down and out, they're generally happier. And there's that cool Netflix special where 10 questions to the Dalai Lama, and he asked the Dalai Lama after this huge involved process of getting to him to ask these questions, and he gave him like 45 minutes to ask him these questions. He said, "Why is it that when I travel the world, I see that most of the places that I've been that are quote unquote poorest, people smile more and they seem happier than the rich and the well-off that I meet in other parts of the world, right?" And his response was because they have nothing to lose. And they just like, they have what they have and they wake up and that's their reality. Whereas the rich of the world have so much to lose and fight so hard to maintain. Everything is about maintaining that status, maintaining that bank account, maintaining that home, maintaining that illusion of the idea of happiness, not actually joyful, but just like, I have accumulated these items that I need to think about every day. You know, like in Fight Club, where he says, the things you own end up owning you. That is extremely true. Extremely. And so not in all cases, not every rich person is miserable and not every poor person is happy. But environmentally, when you travel to other places in the world, you learn that there are extreme benefits to the United States. I'm not in any way, shape, or form a USA hater at all. I'm not actually a hater of any particular environment. There's people in those environments that do it well and do it poorly, here and anywhere else. And
there's always pros and cons everywhere.
Pros and cons everywhere.
Like absolutely. I love England, but there's stuff I don't like about it. But I love America, but there's stuff I don't like about it. Like everywhere, there's always going to be problems.
There is.
Nothing's ever going to go smooth, and that's
no
one
one's
thing I
perfect.
say to people, because you know, if life went so perfect and life went so, you know, if everything went your way, life would be boring. If you literally got everything you ever wanted and so quickly and just nothing went wrong, that's not life at all.
Right.
You know, from when there's a down, there's always an up. And sometimes those downs makes the ups even better.
Challenge breeds reward.
You're only going to grow as a person if you learn from your mistakes and if you learn from the heartache. Like I sit there and I tell people, I'm like, I'm so thankful for the guy that, you know, I met before my husband, because he broke my heart so badly and made me realize so many things that, you know, I needed to chill out and that I needed to just let things kind of happen. And there were so many other things that, you know, that I shouldn't walk on eggshells every day, that I shouldn't be scared to make a point, that I shouldn't be scared to say anything to him, you know, because that was the one thing. I was scared to say anything to him because I just didn't want to lose him. And that was a really unhealthy relationship I had there.
Absolutely.
So then when I met my husband, I was like, all right, I'm telling you, I've got a few
risk
boyfriends.
Of losing somebody the risk of losing somebody is not just a, you know, a concern. Like I would not want to lose Taylor, but if that's a condition to your relationship or your friendships or your family members, that's a negative environment.
Completely. And that's why you've got to have that. And that's why some people are like, oh, look at that couple fighting over there. They must have a terrible relationship. And it's like, no, actually they could have the best relationship because you need to fight to work things out. Communication is key. Okay. And at the end of the day, if you guys don't have fights, you don't stand up for what you believe in, it's never going to work out. And you need to talk. And that's why I loved Doug with all my heart, because honestly, like when I met him, we didn't hide anything from each other. We told each other everything and anything. And I was not scared to lose him. I mean, obviously you know, deep down inside, I was just like, and we did have one point where we nearly weren't together. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, boom, it like hit me. And I went, I really need this guy, like, you know, but I was still really cool about the situation. And I just, you know, I sat there and went, well, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You know, instead of sitting in my bed eating ice cream and feeling sorry for myself, I got up and I carried on doing what I did. And, you know, we managed to work things out and now we are married, you know, and that's one thing, he never saw himself being married, and we're married.
Yeah, because he went down that game.
Did he?
I really like what you said. I really like what you said about I'm really grateful for the previous person. And I feel that same way too. And I think that that's an important lesson for anybody listening to this is like, you know, I have this analogy where I have changed my entire life repeatedly. Like every 10 years, I completely open a new chapter. I close what I was done and I become a new person. Like I've had completely separate journeys. And I have mad respect for people that are lifelong anything. If you're going to be a cobbler your whole life and you're going to do that for a long time, I give that mad props. I don't have that kind of mind. I
No, me
have to
neither.
change it over, right? So I
Yeah.
have to constantly reinvent myself just to challenge myself so I don't get too like, immersed
That's
in
why I do 4 things. That's why I'm
right.
modeling, performing, tattooing. It's why I'm
You
doing all of
should.
that because I'm like,
Absolutely.
whew.
It's more pages to a book for me, and that's just how my mind works. So I'm okay with that. But the other thing I really like when you're saying like I'm grateful for the previous person, one of the worst things that I think people tell themselves, and especially with the girls that I've encountered, because they take it really hard, is they say this relationship ran 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, marriage, whatever, lasted X amount of time, and then it ended, and now I've wasted all that time.
No,
I'm
it's
like, no,
not.
you didn't.
No,
That's not true. Like
no.
you could just have a career. The average career change is seven careers in a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And people that you engage. It's a fairy tale that you're going to meet one person that's going to be the person you're with forever. I've got a
Disney.
family member that did
Disney is
that.
the problem. Let's
Disney is a
blame
problem.
Disney.
Well, that's pre-Disney, right? Those stories have been going on forever. Now I've got a family member, Joe and Kathy, my cousins. They're like in their 60s now, and they're late 50s. Sorry, guys, if you're not quite 60 yet. But they
Ooh,
were high school
busted.
sweethearts, right? They're high school sweethearts. They're on a boat right now, their own boat, this 48-foot yacht sailing out to islands. Like that's their life. They were the exception to the rule, right? But the point is, when you change over, when you have a relationship that ends, it wasn't a failure. It's just a chapter. There's no book that you read where at the end of it you feel like you failed because you completed the book. Now the book could be not what you expected. It could have the different turnout than you wanted. It might not have been as enjoyable as other books, but you never feel like you fucked up and you failed in life because you've completed a book. You've just completed a chapter of your life. Put it on the shelf, learn from it, add it to your library, and move on. But
The
you're
only thing I will say though, I will interrupt because
yeah, go.
if you give something up for that person, then you've wasted your time. So let's say you're in this relationship for 4 years and the guy after a year goes, I don't want you to model. And then you give up modeling because of him. And then you break up 3 years later and you sit there and you're like, well, that was a waste of time. It wasn't a waste of time for the relationship. Like you had to learn to not give up easy, like not to give up things you love.
What about in compromise? What if she says, I really want you to stop gangbanging at night? And you really like gangbanging at night, and you really like going out and slinging rocks on the corner. And
There's
like
compromise in a
you
relationship.
got to give that up.
But if you give up something and then 3 years later go, I wish I never did this, you can always take a step back. Like you can get things. Like I've even said to people, let's say me and Deb break up next week, right? I can go back to England. There's no harm in that. And because everyone was like, you've left England, oh my God, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I could go back. There's no problem. There's like, and I'm not going to sit there as well and go,
Not a big deal.
oh, I wasted my time being in America and doing all this. I didn't. This isn't. I've met some amazing people here, and I've had so much fun.
You're adding pages to your book, man.
It is, but I do believe as well, you got to stick to your gun. And if somebody's asking too much of you to change yourself, and you're on the path of going, this feels right about me, and this other person won't mesh in with you.
Agreed.
Then it means your paths are going two different ways. Whereas in like me and Deb, we were both going down a really nice highway together, both really creative, really artistic, wanting to mesh our stuff together and work as a power couple. And that just was so appealing to me because I wanted a guy like that, like hands down wanted that. Sure. So when he came around, I was like, oh, I wasn't looking for someone, but hell yeah, this is fucking awesome.
Well, that's how it happens.
Have fun.
That's a cliched statement, but it's true.
Yeah, I hate that because I fucking told people, I was like, stop saying that to me. Like, so I'm here waiting and it's not happening. And people were just like, it will, don't worry. And now I'm the fucking one saying it. So I'm like, shit, I'm a hypocrite. But
that's not a hypocrite, man. It's honestly like, we all want to try and like have more control over our existence and what's going to happen to us than we really do. So we like to say a bunch of shit and we like to sound prophetic and we like to sound like we got shit figured out. And then life just happens and you just deal with it as it comes.
Oh shit, I thought I had things figured out when I was like 16. I was like, I'm an arrow, I'm this. Dude, when my little sister turned to me and was like, I'm 16, I'm thinking about getting this pierced and I'm thinking about having sex. I was like, oh, no. You are my little sister. You're too young. And then I sat there going, what?
Do as I say, not as I do.
Right. And I looked at her and I went, shit, when I was 16, I really felt like an adult. I really felt like I was older and I had things, I knew what the fuck to do. And I looked at my little sister and went, Yo, now I understand why those people were saying to me, like, slow the fuck
They
down.
don't know shit.
He looks like a kid. And I
They
was
don't
like,
know
you are a
shit.
kid. I
Yeah.
was a kid.
Yeah. Let me tell you, the older you get, the more it gets that way too. Like,
Right. I'm going to be like, yeah, okay.
dude, right now I will like drive down the road and I'll see somebody in a car and I'm like, why is that 8-year-old driving? And they're really like 25. And I'm like, fuck,
You're like,
I'm getting
God
so old.
damn.
When you see an
Like,
18-year-old
start
now, you're
counting
like, is
gray
that
hairs.
really what I look like? Like, that's what
Sorry,
I
I'm
fucking
like,
look like.
hold on. What do you say?
I said, that's like now when you see an 18-year-old, you look at him, you're like, is that really what an 18-year-old looks like? Like,
I
that's fucking
know.
insane. You look like a child.
Yes, and that's why it kills me because I'm just like, oh man, I thought I was all this then, like saying that I was an adult and I could look after myself, and I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
I
no, you
did,
don't know
but I was
shit.
very much like, damn,
I
like
was lucky because I was kind of, even as a child, I looked 33. Like I've always looked 33 in my mind. So when I turned 33, I was like, hey, I look like my age finally.
yeah, I was 16 going on like 21. Like I
Yeah.
was definitely that kid. I could get into nightclubs without being ID'd when I was like 16. So
Yeah.
my sister, when she turned 18, because in England you can go to nightclubs and drink at 18.
Yeah.
So when my sister turned 18, it was so easy to go into clubs with her because I just looked older. I
Let's
carried
be
myself older.
let's be real about it. Even in the States, that's the way clubs work. If you're a hot girl, you're getting in that club. They don't give a shit. Those
Yeah.
doormen don't give a fuck. They
No.
just want whoever's, and I'm calling all you clubs out. You
Right.
just want hot people in there. You don't fucking care. Like
Well, I don't know.
we know how you work.
The one I went in was pretty damn crazy though, like
Yeah.
for real. Like it was,
Those are the fun ones.
yeah, they were really good actually. I miss those days.
Absolutely. All right, check this
The
out.
days
We know you had stuff to do today, so what we kind of wanted to tap in. We're gonna meet up with you again. We're gonna talk about performing stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we love you and Durbin. Like we're all good friends here, so there's no reason just to say this is our only one. And we're gonna do the couple one, right, with you both, because we want to talk about that dynamic, right? Because people that want to talk about, you know, couples, and some people like that shit.
Yeah.
So all in all, getting into, you know, just you as a young professional and as a model and as a performer and as someone who's goal oriented and who's wanting to reach out, just one more time, man, a little advice out for, you know, aspiring models, male or female, or just anybody looking to break into new barriers. I mean, you've left a country, you've traveled the world, you've left one country for another in the most insane moment in history you could for coming to this country in the last, you know, 100 years.
Yeah,
So
right.
but you came at a good time. You know, you come in the shit weather. Like we moved to Philly from Florida in winter, right? So we came and it was shit. And then we got to see spring happen. So it was just nice. So you're kind of in that same bubble, right? You come here in the middle of a very, you know, conflicted time. And ideally, it'll just get nicer as you're here.
Yeah.
So just that rundown, man. Just a little advice out for them before you take off.
So just, yeah, a little advice. Just keep going for your dreams and don't let anyone tell you you can't do anything. Because that's definitely one thing that I was told, you know, they were like, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, here I am. You know, I got told you can never be a full-time model. I'm a full-time model, have been since I was like 21. So, you know, it's definitely one of the things that just keep, you know, doing you. And that's another thing as well. Be unique as much as you can be. Like, I'm not the only girl with red hair. I'm not the only girl with the ombre. Like, I'm not the only one with these kind of tattoos. You know, you can be influenced by everyone around the world. Don't copy.
Right.
Don't slate. Don't be part of all that BS.
Right.
Just, you know, be yourself and, you know, like make yourself into that icon. Make yourself into something that you want. You know, if you're styling a cartoon, sit there and go, what would you like about the cartoon? You know, beauty is inside and out. So make sure make sure you cover all those aspects, you know, because you won't just better yourself in your career, you'll also better yourself as a person in your personal life. So definitely just work on the whole thing. And I generally feel like that is an everyday task for me, is just waking up and doing what I want to do, you know, and regardless of doctors, if doctors sit there going, oh, you can't do this, oh, you can't do that, because you might get ill, you might get cancer, you might die. Well, fuck them.
You're gonna die.
You're going to die anyway. You're going to have problems. Like I even said to my husband, I was like, if I lose my leg, I hope it's my right leg, because my left one took a long time to tattoo. But if I lost my right leg, Would I still be doing performing? Yes. Would I still be tattooing? Yes. Would I still model? Hell fucking yes. Yep. I will still be doing everything that I'm doing. So at the end of the day, be you and be the best kind of you, because there's not going to be anyone else in the world that is like you. And that's my piece of advice to all you guys out there.
I like it a lot. Tell people one more time where they can visit you, your site, and kind of interact with you and reach out to you if they need to.
So if you guys want to contact me, you can contact me on Instagram. I do check my DMs all the time. So my Instagram is Cervena Fox. So it's CervenaFox. And I'm also on Facebook. Same again, Cervena Fox. I'm also on Twitter. And I do have a YouTube channel. So if you just search my name in the search bar, it'll come up with my channel. Or you can put in youtube.com/Cervena Fox. I will be doing more videos, so if you guys have any recommendations, please go ahead and Instagram me. If you like to book in for a tattoo, Instagram me. Basically, you can find me everywhere. Just type in my name.
Look at all that, man.
Yeah.
A million ways to reach her. And of course, you'll be able to watch this on TOSOTT.com. That's misspelled as TOSOTT, the other side of the tattoo. That's the point. What else is everybody's doing out there? So again, TOSOTT.com, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff as well. But thank you guys for joining us. And Cervena, we will see you hopefully in Phoenix. Yes. If I make it out there, Taylor will definitely be out there, but hopefully I'll see you there. Well,
we're going to meet at the pool and we're all going to drink and it's going to be a fun time.
Well, I don't drink, but I'll have an espresso with you. But thank you very much for your time and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you very much.